In my last video, I talked about good sales and what a healthy sales mindset looks like. But many agency owners still get stuck on how to actually go about quoting and selling websites and how to convert new business inquiries into signed off projects. In this video, I'm going to share my 5-step sales process. I use this process personally when I ran my web design agency, and it helped me to win hundreds of new website projects. Hi, thanks for joining. If you're new to this channel, I'm Rich Dean, a web designer and developer, former web agency owner, and author of the book series Start, Grow and Sell Your Web Design Agency. My goal is to help anyone looking to start, grow, and sell an agency to save time, earn more money, avoid the common mistakes and pitfalls, and build a thriving and valuable business. Okay, so on to the main topic, starting with step 1, book the initial meeting. With sales, it's crucial to strike while the iron's hot and reach out to potential new clients as soon as they get in contact with you. So let's assume that a new client has just reached out and made an inquiry, perhaps through your website contact form, or maybe they called you. The first thing you should do is call them straight back, and I'd always recommend telephoning them, not emailing them. Emails can be ignored or forgotten, but a telephone call is instant, and it's the first step in building a personal relationship, which is also really important. Telephoning them also shows that you're a real person in a real business and that you care enough about their inquiry to personally call them, which also helps to build trust. So obviously, when you're setting up inquiry mechanisms like contact forms, make sure you capture the client's telephone number. But the aim of that first call back is not to start discussing their new project there and then. The purpose is to book them in for a proper meeting. Again, this is about building trust and commitment with the new client. You won't be able to capture all the information about the new project over a telephone call, and it also doesn't enable you to build that personal relationship. So if the client starts talking about their new project, don't cut them off, but just tell them that you'd like to book in a meeting with them so you can discuss it in more detail. Get that meeting in the diary, again, as soon as possible so the momentum is still there. And ideally, this should be a face-to-face meeting, as again, that's more personal than a video call. Step 2, the briefing meeting. Okay, so once you've booked the initial meeting, you'll then need to conduct it. As I mentioned just now, in-person meetings are always better as they're much more personal. Personally, I'd only use video calls if the client is too far away for a physical meeting or if they absolutely insist. But this initial meeting is not just about getting to know the client. It's your opportunity to get all the information you need so that you can provide a proper quote. Now, how to structure this meeting can be overwhelming, and many people struggle to know where to start or what questions to ask. So I'd recommend that you formalize a proper briefing questionnaire structure. In fact, I'd recommend you create a briefing questionnaire separately anyway, as there will always be other places that you can use it. You can then use that questionnaire to structure this initial meeting. If you're not sure what questions to ask, here are some that I used to use. 1, the client's basic details, so who they are, including their role. 2, the client's business, so what they actually do and what sectors they operate in. Let the client tell you this in their own words. 3, why they need a new website, so what are they looking to achieve. 4, why their old website is no longer working for them, including what problems it might have. 5, whether they've worked with a web design agency before, and if so, what was their experience. 6, did they have any concerns about commissioning a new website? 7, what have they tried before? What worked and what didn't? 8, do they have a budget in mind? This is an important one, but not all clients will have this, or they may not want to disclose it. 9, who are their target audience, and what actions do they want them to take? 10, how experienced is the client with websites? This will let you know how technical they are. 11, how will the content be handled? Will they be creating it and adding it to the website themselves, or will they need you to do this? This is quite a big area, and it can catch a lot of people out if it's not accounted for. 12, do they have a launch date in mind? This is another really important one. 13, who are their competitors? Is there anything you should specifically avoid, or any examples of what works well in their sector? 14, do they require any other services? If you offer anything else, this could be a really good chance to upsell. So there's quite a lot there, but this should give you all the information you need to create a proper detailed quote and scope of work, which we'll talk about more in the next step. The meeting itself can take anywhere from half an hour to a couple of hours, depending on how talkative the client is, so make sure you set aside enough time. Before we close on this chapter though, another important tip is to book the client in for a second follow-up meeting for when you'll have their proposal ready to present to them. Again, from my experience, it's much easier to do this when you still have the client with you in the first meeting, rather than trying to get hold of them later, which can be a lot harder. Step 3, write the proposal. Okay, before we get into this one, I need to ask you a really big favour. We're a fairly new channel, so it would really help us a lot if you could like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and also share this content with anyone else you think could benefit from it. It takes a lot of time to make these videos, so this will really help YouTube to recognise our content, and it'll mean we can carry on making helpful videos just like this. Okay, thank you, and back into it. So once you've collected all the information as part of your initial briefing meeting, you'll then need to write a detailed proposal outlining everything you'll deliver as part of the new website project, as well as those all-important costs. Now, writing a good proposal is a skill in itself, and I'll talk about this a lot more in some of my other videos and in my second book, Grow. So I won't go into it in too much detail here, but a good proposal should do the following. First, it should echo back to the client what their challenges are and how you'll look to overcome them with the new website. This is basically repeating back to them what you discussed in the initial meeting. It should then spell out how the new website will work in as much detail as possible so that the client can get as good an idea as possible of what the new website will look like. It should also be clear about what won't be included and any other caveats or potential limitations. It should include all the services that you'll offer if you don't just offer websites. It should include prices for all options so the client can understand exactly what they'll be spending. And lastly, it should include a place where both you and the client can sign it, along with your terms and conditions, so the proposal itself can form the agreement between you and the client. Now, for that last part, some people like to separate out their quotes or proposals with the actual signed agreement, but I personally always like to combine the two together. For me, that just made more sense as it was a lot easier for everything to be contained in the same document. So you'll have one document that covers everything you'll do and also becomes a signed agreement between you and the client. For the agreement and terms and conditions parts, I'd recommend you seek proper legal advice here so that everything is legally sound. Step 4, the follow-up meeting. So once you've written the proposal, you'll need to give it to the client, and this is another instance where I'd always recommend doing this in person. It might be tempting to just email it to them, and some clients might even ask for that. But again, I never found that very personal, plus emailing kind of detracts from the value of what you're offering. It's a bit more throwaway. I always found delivering the proposal in person to be much more effective, and it's a much better way to build that personal relationship and trust with the client. I always found the best time to hold the follow-up meeting with a client was around 1 to 2 weeks after your initial briefing meeting. 1 to 2 weeks is just about right, as it should give you enough time to write the proposal, and it's short enough to catch the client while they're still keen and engaged. If you leave it any longer than this, you risk the client going off the boil. The follow-up meeting itself doesn't need to take too long, certainly not as long as the initial briefing meeting. It's really just a chance for you to talk through your proposal document and for the client to ask any questions. Though again, depending on how talkative or engaged the client is, the time can vary. So I'd recommend allowing half an hour to an hour for this. Once the meeting is finished, you may need to make some changes to the proposal if the client requests them, but the next step will then be to give them the proposal, and this is where you can then email it to them. Step 5, maintain contact. So once you've given the client your proposal, it's then about following up and maintaining contact with them with the aim of reaching one of 3 potential outcomes. The first is that the client approves the project, and this is the one that you'll probably be hoping for. The second is that the client declines the project, which will probably be disappointing, but you won't win every project, so don't be too disheartened. The third is what I call slow burn, which is where the client doesn't give you a definite no, but where they don't sign off on the project straight away either. The important thing to remember here is that you probably won't win most of the projects you quote for, perhaps at least not straight away. Clients get busy and their focus on a new website can come and go, so it's not uncommon for projects to take a while to be approved, sometimes months or even years. In terms of how frequently you should follow up, that will depend on the client themselves. Some clients will be happy for you to maintain regular contact, but some will need more space. You should never be pushy or put the client under any pressure. That will probably make them more likely to say no than yes. I would always start with more frequent follow-ups at the beginning, perhaps once a week or every couple of weeks, and then taper off to less frequently as time goes by. I always found that the longer time went on, the less likely it was that the client would sign the project off. But if you have a good system in place for generating new business inquiries, then you should be constantly going through this process for many clients, in which case you'll almost certainly need something like a CRM to manage them all. Okay, so hopefully you found this video useful. If you've enjoyed it, then please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you'd like more tips and insights for how to grow your business, check out my book series, Start, Grow and Sell Your Web Design Agency, which you can buy from Amazon now, and I'll share a link in the description below. And if you'd like to watch even more informative content, then why not check out this video here. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.